Hi folks, this is Ernie. In an earlier video I showed you how to take a 3D printed part in plastic like this purple guy and turn them into something shining metal like this aluminum figure and these two Nordic gold figures. This is the setup I used to do that, and uh, some of you had questions about my vacuum system, so I'm doing a little bit more detail here on that. First off, it's all driven by this two-stage vacuum pump. I got this two-stage vacuum pump at Harbor Freight. It pulls very high levels of vacuum, enough to boil water, and you can use it for air conditioning systems and the like. From there, I have this larger tube here that goes up to this vacuum chamber, and I use the larger tube there because there's quite a bit of air in there and I like to get it out. I use this vacuum chamber to get the bubbles out of the plaster, the investment powder, when I'm doing that, as you'll see in the other video. I can shut that off, and this other line goes to this manifold. This manifold is actually from an aquarium. An aquarium air pump uses low pressure, and it works great on this. Very inexpensive. I could have done a whole bunch of ball valves and stuff like that, but these little valves work great, and if I want to turn different things on and off, I can just use that. And I'll put the part numbers for all these in the description. Now the red colored stuff, brick colored stuff, that's surplus from an aircraft surplus, high temperature tubing, and it would be safer to use that around this hot stuff, but you can do just fine with this blue. I got the blue off from Amazon. It is automotive vacuum lines, and I bought a variety of sizes just so I'd get the right ones that would fit. And that blue one goes over to the vacuum table, and that's where I had the most questions. Now, later I'll get into detail about how much vacuum and how that worked and go from there. So anyway, let's lift this up. But yeah, this is the vacuum table that I had the most questions on, and it's really very simple, handy design. I was trying to come up with a way to make a vacuum table that wasn't going to take a lot of machining and work and fancy stuff like that, and I suddenly come up on this idea of using these pipes. Now, let me pull a box up down here. Most of these pipes, well, they're 1-inch, standard 1-inch black iron pipe. Now this piece is galvanized, but standard 1-inch galvanized pipe, end caps, like so. And now the 6-way and these flanges are furniture grade, still cast iron, but they're made for furniture, handrails, things like that. Again, I got those off of Amazon, all 1-inch diameter, and I put it together, as you can see here, with Teflon tape. Up here I use a little high temperature silicon to seal up there. You may not be able to see it in there. High temperature silicon will seal everything up real well. Now, side note, the reason for the taller section on the bottom of this, the longer pipe, is the thought that if the plaster mold failed and the molten aluminum fell down through into the vacuum table, I was hoping that that molten aluminum would fall down here in the bottom part and not get sucked into my vacuum pump. Fortunately, I've never had the plaster fail, so I don't know if that works, but that's why it's taller down there. Mounting these, the way I mounted these is this is 1/8 inch steel plate, 9 inches by 9 inches or thereabouts, and I had to drill the holes in this flange out to 1/4 inch so these 1/4 inch bolts would fit, and then I drilled and tapped holes in the plate to match 1/4 20 thread. And now I misdrilled one here. As you can see, it's missing. You don't need all that much structure, so I just seal that off and don't use it, and it's no problem. But it's got sealer under there, Teflon tape in all the joints, and Then on where the screws come through, I ground those off flat. It's a little rusty here, but I ground that off flat. Same thing down here on the bottom. Anyway, this makes it real modular. You can make it taller like I did here, or shorter. You could probably get by with just a 4-way here instead of a 6-way. Something like this would probably be enough outlets. But it's real handy. It's easy to put together, inexpensive. One thing nice about them being modular too is these caps. If you want to use a different size fitting or a different way to connect to it, you can unscrew that, drill a hole in it, tap it, install the part, then put that back on there without completely rebuilding your whole deal. So it makes it real handy, real modular, and I really like it. So now, as far as the seal, I did a lot of testing, and at first I thought a regular vacuum cleaner type vacuum would be enough to make the part, to pull the aluminum down in the part. Well, it turns out it wasn't. I needed to have a higher vacuum. Well, it worked with a regular vacuum cleaner, but not very good. There are still some defects in the casting. Little side note here, this is the very first casting I did using this method, and this is where I used a vacuum cleaner motor to pull the vacuum. And personally, I was really pleased that it came out this good on my first ever attempt at this. You can tell there are spots around the edges. One of his ears is missing. There's a chunk missing out of the base and the like, and his spear didn't come out. But that's what it looked like with a regular vacuum. But I noticed the more vacuum I pulled, the better quality the casting was. But there's a problem with that. With a regular vacuum, you don't need this because it pulls so much air that you set the can up here. Let me get a can, hold on. If you were to set this can up here with a regular vacuum, it's going to pull pretty good. It's going to pull a lot of vacuum because a regular vacuum cleaner pulls lots of air. But if you switch over to this thing, it's CFM or Solo, that if you have just the slightest leak up here, it's not going to pull very much vacuum. So that means you're going to have a really good seal. And that's where this silicone rubber comes in. Now this silicone rubber, again, I got it off of Amazon. It's high temp, but it's like rated at like 400 degrees F. Not sure what that is in C, but anyway, I think it's 200 and some C. But as you could tell in the video I did before, I take cans out of the kiln that were preheated to 900 degrees C and set them on here. And by the time I get them set on here, they're cooled down a bit, but yet still there's hardly any damage to this rubber. It works really good. So even though it's only rated at 200 C or 400 F, it has been doing the job really well. And it comes in a package, a number of sheets, and easy to cut, easy to deal with. So anyway, that's the deal there. Now, I decided to try a casting. I said that the higher the vacuum, the better it would do. Well, if you don't do any vacuum, what you run into is, I'll try to show you here. Typically, when you take the part out of the mold, it'll look like this, except this purple part's aluminum. And what happens is you pour the molten metal down in the top, and the vacuum sucks it down into where this purple part was. But on a good casting, it'd come out looking like that, except all aluminum. When I didn't have any vacuum on it at all I got was this. The surface tension of the aluminum is so high that without vacuum, it wouldn't pull it into these little thin runners in here. So you have to have vacuum, and the more the better. Now with my setup here and a few leaks here and there, with that pump I'm able to get about 9 psi of vacuum, and that's pretty good. So with a regular vacuum cleaner I was getting somewhere around 2 psi. I forgot to mention that a lot of the measurements I was doing was using this digital pressure gauge, which I also got off of Amazon. It's got a positive and negative. It can do differential or absolute, and that comes in real handy when you're measuring real precise values. And again, I'll put the part number in the description. Hey folks, thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to see the full process video, I'll leave the link in the description. Also, be sure to like and subscribe so you can see more videos like this in the future. Thanks.